More than 38 million Christians suffer a high level of persecution and discrimination. Their homes and churches are destroyed and believers face enormous pressure. In sub-Saharan Africa, violence is rising sharply. 8 out of 10 deadliest countries for Christians are in this region. This instability allows Christians to be targeted while Islamic militants exploit the chaos and to attack with impunity. In the Middle East, Christians are being driven underground. Emigration is transforming an ancient and once numerous community into a much smaller and endangered minority. Above all, the situation in Nigeria is alarming. Since 2009, more than 50,000 Christians have been brutally massacred. I recently visited Nigeria, and where I raised the concern directly with the authorities, questioning why stronger protection is not being provided to Christian communities and why attacks on their churches continued unchecked. These stories have been ignored for far too long by international media, but the silence must end.
In Paris, it's based in places like Abuja and Lagos. The fact of the matter is, and for that matter, Yaoundé as well, the fact of the matter is that we are witnessing a second wave of decolonization in Africa right now. Biafra, Ambassadorial, Somaliland are at the front line of a struggle for freedom, religious freedom, as well as simply personal, economic freedom, political freedom. The fact of the matter is, though, when we talk about that front line of colonialism, Biafra, Amazonia, Somaliland, we're also talking about a response to genocide. The fact of the matter is, when we look at the modern history of Biafra, a room dedicated to Veterans Affairs, to honor the veterans of the Biafra struggle. The fact of the matter is that they did not start the struggle for Biafran rights. Nigeria did. Nigeria has agency. They have decision-making. No one forced Nigeria to undertake the pogroms of 1966. That was a decision that was made in Lagos. And what we have seen, the struggle for freedom in Biafra, is a natural response to the repression, which is now more than 60 years old inside Nigeria, and especially with regard to Biafra. Now, we can talk about genocide. And unfortunately, what has occurred in Biafra in the late 1960s and so forth isn't the only case of genocide that the 20th century has seen. But what makes the history and the recognition of the Biafran genocide so important is this. When the Jews...
Nigeria is on the verge of collapse if nothing is being done as regards banditry. At the same time, US and the Congress are finally begin the step to finally recognize Biafra.
It's one of the reasons why before Donald Trump, the United States of American president, we're able to start taking steps on the issue that has to do with genocide in Nigeria. And remember, there was one significant American celebrity, top music icon, that was present in that process of trying to have a hand or a leg in the UN to prive them of, on the possibility of trying to wipe away Christians by radical Islamists, and that's Mickey Minaj, who was also present in that UN General Assembly where a lot of things was open through her on the issue that has to do with systematic, killing of indigenous people and of course Christians in Nigeria. Currently now, it has been estimated that over 75,000 Christians has been killed so far, according to that report. So, and you know that this kind of message took place in the presence of UN President Antonio Guterres and other well-meaning personalities and other representatives of the United Nations General Assembly were also present. The world was present where the issue of Christian killings took place. Yes, a lot of people have always linked, the presence of Nicki Minaj, and of course, the head of Department of War in United States of America, who was also present there in the company of Rally Moore and the rest of them, who was also there. So the UN have already had a forehand information, a first-hand information that there is deep crisis in Nigeria. And a lot of things must have played along behind the scene that we might not be able to know that has actually triggered this breaking news that calls for celebration. And must give kudos to the Congress, U.S. congressmen, and of course, the African U.S. representative in Donald Trump government, who has taken it upon himself to look at the issue of human rights violations, and of course African policies as regards the way and manner radical Islamists destroy, disalive a lot of Christians in Nigeria. I think on that basis now, that was how the UN begin to gather that momentum, gather that understanding, and know that no, they needed to do something. And of course, what we are hearing, that was a statement credited to the United Nations, General Secretary Antonio Guterres, where he said, everything is on hand, everything is on the all hands on deck, because Nigeria has become a disaster, and the only way out is to show solidarity for the newest nation in Africa, which is Biafra. So I think the US should be able to look at that as a solution to killings in Nigeria and how to checkmate the excesses of radical Islamists in invading territories in Nigeria currently now. So we must give kudos to the United Nations Secretary General for having taken that position after a long walk, or a long silence in that regard. And one of the reasons why United Nations was actually established was to make sure that we are always conflict resolution, and most of anything that has to do with self-determination, the UN does not see it as a crime, but what they are actually against is the violent approach to achieve self-determination, and to a very large extent the indigenous people of Biafra, the IPOB, has maintained that standard up to this moment, irrespective of any reservation anybody must have about it. It was registered as a non-violent organization seeking for independence and sovereignty of Biafra out of the entity called Nigeria.
Okay, let's not forget that the NATO chief and the EU chief Gunter finally called. He said what? He said Donald Trump and the US government must declare Biafra. He said it, and it was so serious as regards it. But do you think that the US finally have what it takes? He said let them declare Biafra politically. Like there's no need for the army, the US military to invade Nigeria before Biafra is declared. He said let Donald Trump and the US declare Biafra politically. Do you think that the US have what it takes, or the process to declare Biafra?
Yeah, it has continued to spread, because most people who does not identify with Biafra today have begun to identify with Biafra. And we saw the Ohanese youth leader calling for referendum. We don't need referendum in this regard. What we need an executive order, a political order from a superior and a powerful nation like America, and that settles it. Boss, that is it. That it settles it finally. We don't need to make noise. We know our band, and we can only extend referendum, to some states or some places that will feel okay, and whatever they would like actually to be part of this great nation, like the Kogi and the rest of them and all those areas. But yes, they also look at the issue of Ambazonia, because Ambazonia was part of Biafra before this thing. I think that will bring peace and expand the Biafran territory to be able to be a very formidable and strong nation that can represent the allies of reality, the allies of leadership in the world, the allies of the black race, in that regard. So, the United States of America have, what it takes in that regard. But let me just make it very clearly. I must celebrate Gunter Jang, the NATO chief himself, who has always been consistent. And you remember that a few days ago, there was an anniversary where this very man we are talking today participated in recognition of the Biafran government in exile under the Prime Minister, Simon Ekpa. He was there live, and we witnessed the celebration of ex-Nigeria, and that's what he's championing. And he's about to attend a conference too. Possibly is one of the guests there where he's going to make an opening speech and talk about the need for the world, the whole world, the EU themselves, to gather and show solidarity in recognition of Biafra. But I think it has to come from the United States government first, a political order, executive order. Then in preparation to that, we can decide to extend referendum for people who are outside the Biafran territory, like the Amazonians and others, if they want to join, and other people who are also waiting, like the Benue, who are also waiting, Middle Belt, who are also waiting, who have distanced themselves completely from anything that has to do with the North. Yesterday,
don't be panicking,
no. That is not our business. Our business is that, if they feel safer or in Biafran land, so be it. But I can tell you there will be a lot of migrants from different parts of Nigeria who want to identify with this nation. I can tell you that, and Americans will begin to. I wish anybody that's watching this video should be able to share this video and share this idea. Because we are looking at a nation that will stand the test of time. And be strong enough to withstand the heat and pressure that is going to come from enemy neighbors. Let me use it that way. Enemy neighbors at the end of the day. So if you look at it very well from that perspective, I think it is something that the United States think tanks, diplomats, should be able to look into. First of all, give us that very recognition. Then extend the referendum. We don't need the referendum to happen in Biafra land. Biafra is already, knows what, how and who are part of that reality. So we extend a referendum to other states, neighbors, and other, like maybe Ambazonia, for instance, to be able to create a more bigger space in that direction. So I celebrate Gunter Jang, Gunter Jang, the NATO man, for the continuous, lobbying for that reality. I also celebrate Ted Cruz in that regard. Rally Moore, these guys are just amazing. Like, they understand Nigeria, they understand what is happening in Nigeria, they understand just very everything. When they started opening up, they have also condemned the unfortunate appointment of
ambassadors.
career ambassadors recently by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he said those that were appointed are nothing but corrupt. Corruption appointing corruption, and that definitely they cannot be able to launder the image of the dead image of Nigeria outside Nigeria as ambassadors. That is a very untidy pronouncement on Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government, and we have seen the escalation of invasions by these people. So the Americans know what to do. To get the right thing and to get to the right solution.
But do you not think the Nigeria delegate the delegate that went to America to seek for the help of Nigeria, for America, the likes of Nubadu and Bianca, do you not think they were shocked that the likes of the War Department chief and the likes of some of the US Congress, like the likes of Rahman, Ted Cruz, brought evidence as regards the maltreatment of the Biafrans, and at the same time the killings of Christian Nigeria? They were evidence. They didn't know that Nigeria US government have been providing, or keeping proof of everything that has been happening, do you think that they will be shocked as regards this?
Well, but many people were not surprised. They were beginning to wonder the kind of human being Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu sent a very strong message to Reverend Kuka, Matthew Kuka, before we are seeing his double playing. How have we put it? Chameleonic statement now. The hide and seek he's trying to achieve at the end of the day, saying there's no genocide in Nigeria. But this is a man who said, a reverend father who said that genocide is ongoing in Nigeria a few years ago, coming back to say there's no genocide in Nigeria. But unfortunately, that did not actually sink very well. These people you are seeing today, thank God, a lot of people are saying that they are trying to see if they can actually compromise the American senators or the congressmen or whatever they may call them, to see how they can manipulate, that particular public hearing on Christian genocide in Nigeria. Yes, but I don't think that actually sank well. But I think to an extent, they were able to reach a certain intelligence, understanding, agreement, but that has not actually, America has not actually departed from that vision of making sure they get to the root cause of radical Islamists and the genocide happening in Nigeria. Unfortunately, he said, no, this it cannot take place, and that these people are actually compromised. We know that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a paymaster. He can compromise anything at any time. But that is what it is. Those who are up there have intelligence and they know what is actually going on. Federal government has been crying loud and saying that they are going to, throw to the public the list of those sponsoring terrorism in Nigeria. But up till now, we have not had anything. Let's keep our hands across until things begin to unfold by itself.
America and even Israel has never called Nigeria as a nation or called Nigeria a nation state or a nation country is because of the division that has been existing between the tribal lines. And there is this video I have been searching for and I finally laid my hand on it. The video is not what you see everywhere. It's not circulating everywhere online. I know where I went to fetch out this video for you. So you can know the truth about the hatred about some particular tribe in Nigeria. That if you want to move forward, you must not associate yourself with them. You must not allow the Igbos to rule as the head of Nigeria. Now I'm beginning to understand what is existing, what they have not been telling us, the histories. They have, changed the mentality of integration or living together or coexisting as a nation. Yes, the division is so wide that even other countries, they see it more than we even see it. Because when you say a country is a state or a nation, they have common objective, they have common language, and they have common goal. And the goal that we talk about here in Nigeria is to make sure one part of this country is marginalized. One part of this country never right. They never want them to see the light of the day. But don't forget that even when they waged war against them, they were quite demystified. They were conquered. About 3 million people were killed from this tribe. But they managed, they survived. And today, they are flying. They are doing well. Wherever they go, they make sure they make best out of whatever they lay their hand off. And now, we are still hating on them. And nobody has ever told us the exact problem that they have. But it takes other countries to tell us what is actually existing among us. What is that is existing among us that we don't know? You are going to hear it from this video that I'm going to play for you today. Thank God this video is not from the foreigners, it's not from Igbo man, is from a Yoruba elder, a Yoruba man that you know that his face is very conspicuous, and thank God they are spilling out the truth, and we are beginning to know the truth about them. And if all these things that you have laid down is actually the truth, why not allow these people to go their own separate way? Let everybody go their own way so that we can chase a common goal. They can chase their own common goal, because when you measure America, they know what they are chasing. They want to become number one in everything that they do. Now, when you measure the nation Nigeria, what are we chasing? The only thing I know that we are chasing now is how to eradicate the insecurity in the land. And it's increasing. The more we chase how to eradicate this, the more the insecurity is increasing. Please listen to this video. You will understand better what I am talking about.
So, do you want me to be honest or just speak, political correctness here? But I choose to be honest with you. I choose to be honest with you. And for me to be honest with you, I have to go back a little bit. But let me start with the situation that we're facing in this country today. If you believe that those that are in power in Nigeria today would ever contemplate the possibility of giving power to an Igbo man in 2023 or thereafter, then you still haven't fully understood the challenge and the problem that we have in this country today. You need to understand that the mindset of some of these people, not all, some, but those that Buhari represents, that is his own clique within the Fulani ruling class, not all Fulanis, but his own clique, who are in power today. Their mindset is that the most dangerous people in this country and the people that they must suppress more than any other are the people of the Southeast. And you need to understand that before the Civil War, and I need to go back in history because that's a damn good question and it deserves a clear answer, a thorough answer. Let's go back a little bit. Before the Civil War, these same people, he, for example, was active then. And you need to remember the role that they played on the night of July 29th, 1966, when the Northern Officers counter coup took place, and 300 Igbo officers were killed in one night, including an Igbo head of state. He was involved, and many of them that are running this country in that cabal today were involved, or supported it. They said it was to pay back for what had happened on January 15th, 1966. Now, after that, what happened? The same people unleashed their people on Igbo civilians in the northern part of this country, and the figure that is often cited is 30,000 were killed. It's not true. Closer to 100,000. Not only were they killed, people, women had their stomachs cut open, and little babies were pulled out and their heads were dashed against the wall. That is what they did then in 1966, before the Civil War. And the Igbos were slaughtered like flies all over the north by these same people. They went rushing back to the east, where they believed they were safe. And the position was this: the leader of the core northern Muslims within the army, Murtala Muhammad, urged Gawan, who was head of state, to march on the east immediately and wipe out the Igbos. Gawan, to his credit, refused to do that and said, no, let's negotiate. And the negotiation started. They broke down, then there was a civil war. In that civil war, 3 million Igbos were killed by federal forces. They were killed by all of us. I'm from the Southwest. I take responsibility for that, as every other Nigerian ought to. Civilians, not soldiers. 3 million, including 1 million children, subjected to genocide, subjected to mass murder, subjected to ethnic cleansing by us. The war ended. We did not apologize. Instead, what did we do? What did we do? We took all their property in the name of abandoned property. We gave them £20, even if they had $1 million in the bank. And we said, come back, no victor, no vanquished. Biggest lie from the pit of hell. There was a victor and there was a vanquished. And we all know who was who. They came back into Nigeria and we reintegrated them. But even with all the reintegration, no Igbo man could be trusted to be General Officer Command in GOC until Obasanjo came to power in 1999. Igbos were not allowed to rise up within the military or in any power configuration in the country. It was something that was understood, that you never put an Igbo man in a position of real power. You can give him appointments, but you don't put him in a position of real power. Okay. Obasanjo came, made General Abiaku, I think his name was, GOC. And then from there, Jonathan came, he appointed an Igbo Chief of Army Staff. Okay? Yes. My wife is reminding me of the name, Ehejireka. You know, he appointed an Igbo Chief of Army Staff. Okay? And we thought things would go on that way. There would be a reintegration of the Igbos. And Obasanjo integrated many Igbos. People like Obi Ezekezi, Andy Uba, so many came in and playing key roles, key positions. We thought things would get better. And unfortunately for us, though, in 2015, everything changed because Nigerians elected, in quotation marks, a man that had, again, I say it again, a different worldview and went back to the pre-1966 disposition and mentality of things. And that position was that Igbos cannot be trusted. Igbos have no rights. Igbos are members of the, he called them 5%, I believe, that didn't vote for him. And his mindset was he will teach Igbos the lesson of their lives. And he has done precisely that. If the killings had stopped then, I would have said, okay, fine. Everything we said is history. But sadly, it didn't stop. Igbo youths, IPOB youths, Igbo nationalists have been killed under this government. More have been killed than at any other time during this, apart from during the Civil War, under this government. Igbos have been hopelessly marginalized by the government. Igbos have been treated with contempt by this government. Not just Igbos, Southerners, Christians, and Middle Belters. They've added that one as well. And that's what's going on. And what the Igbos was subjected to by all of us in 1966 is what we are all being subjected to now by those that are around Buhari. Now, going to your question, given all that, and before I come to that, let me just add this. IPOB says they want to have a referendum. They want the right to self-determine. And you label them as terrorists when none of them has ever carried a gun, as far as I'm aware. I was in prison with Nnamdi Kanu. I had extensive discussions with him. I got to know him. I understood his mindset, and I could feel his pain for his people. Yet they say they want to have a referendum. You say they're terrorists. Meanwhile, those that are butchering our people every day in the name of ethnic domination and hegemony, in the name of furthering the ambitions and the aspirations of Usman Dan Fodio and Samadu Bello and Buhari himself, the three Mahdis, you don't call them terrorists. You pat them on the back, you refuse to arrest any of them. And you say what they're doing is okay. You encourage them. Okay? And the same you, free Boko Haram terrorists, the same you once said that you want to apply Sharia all over the country. The same you said Muslims should only vote for Muslims. The same you says an attack on Boko Haram is an attack on the North. The same you has said so many things which implicitly are online